There are two reasons why people change. It is either they see the light or they feel the heat. Once upon a time, one of my neighbors shared an experience he had with me. It was on a Sunday evening. I was on my way back from the evening service in church when I stopped by the medicine store to get paracetamol. I sat too close to the speaker box in church, and before the service ended, my head was already banging. When I got to the drugstore, I met one of my neighbors. His name is Duke. He said he was having a stomach upset and had come to get some drugs. He also bought 3 packs of shortbread biscuits from the store, one of which he gave me. I didn't want to collect it, but he insisted, and eventually he paid for the paracetamol I got as well. For a moment, I was astonished. The reason is, I had always known this guy to be very stingy. Everybody in the compound knew this about him, and I believe he saw the surprised look on my face. He was such a guy that would collect from everybody, but rarely gives to anybody, unless such an item was no longer of any importance to him, or would it be to anybody. Sometimes he would cook in the middle of the night when everybody had gone to sleep, just to make sure that nobody is awake to beg him for some food. But every now and then, he was always at the receiving end. That was the kind of person he was. So, his kindness that evening was both surprising and suspicious. As we were on our way to the compound, he told me there was something he wanted to share with me. I asked him to go ahead. Then he said he wanted to resign from his work and needed my opinion. When I asked him why, he told me his story. He works as a cleaner for one of the biggest eateries in town. And sometimes, when there are leftover of the perishable snacks after the day's sales, the workers are usually allowed to share them among themselves. This way, he had tasted almost all the snacks in his workplace without buying any of them with his money. But there was one snack left which he had not yet tasted, and that was pizza. 2 days ago, which was Friday, the eatery closed earlier than the usual closing time. It was the week of their 50th anniversary, and the following day, being Saturday, had been set aside for the workers' conference, and all the branches of the eatery in the state would be welcoming the CEO of the company at a chosen venue. So, every worker was given enough time to go home and get themselves prepared. As a result of the early closure, there were a number of leftover pizzas as well as other snacks, and interested workers were asked to take some for themselves or to share with their neighbors. This meant that he eventually had the opportunity to eat a pizza. But while some workers took just 1 or 2 with them, Duke made sure he packed everything left into a cellophane bag, not with the intention of sharing with his neighbors, but to eat everything all alone, to make sure he had a very good feel of pizza. On his way back from work that day, he ran into one of the neighbors, who saw him hurrying to his room and asked him what he was carrying. And he lied that it was his work clothes. When he got into his room, he bolted the door and shut the windows, just to ensure that nobody comes to interrupt his feast. Then he pounced on everything and ate and ate and ate until he was full. He washed it down with 2 bottles of zobo, belched loudly, dropped on the mattress like an iroko, and slept off. What woke him up in the morning was 3 unscheduled appointments with the restroom. It was then that he began to realize why the others picked just 1 or 2 and not many like he did. And for the first time in his life, he thought that if he had known, he would have given some of the snacks to the neighbors. But at this point, the leftovers had gone sour. His stomach was rumbling, and he knew he had a long day ahead of him. Everybody at the event hall was dressed in their best outfit to the occasion. The MC beckoned on them to sit down and maintain decorum while the CEO came forward to address them. Just about when they finished welcoming the CEO to the podium with a round of applause, everywhere was quiet, such that you could hear a pin drop. Just then, it happened. There was a heavy sound of flatulence heard among the audience. It was well projected by the silence, and everybody knew exactly where it came from. Their eyes all went there in unison. The culprit was Duke, the cleaner. The pizza finally let the bag out of the cart. He was overwhelmed with shame as he quickly made his way out of the hall. He went straight to the restroom and thereafter straight to his house. He couldn't summon the courage to show up in the conference room again after such an embarrassment. He could not stand the shame of having let himself down in such a prestigious event, and consequently, he was never planning on going back to work. He just wanted to resign. His story was funny to an extent, but it touched me, and I really felt for him. I could imagine. He said that he was just a cleaner whom some persons do not even regard because of his status. Why then would he go ahead and get more embarrassment for himself, destroying even the small respect that was left? However, we talked, and I had to let him know that it was just a reflex and could have happened to anyone. And as much as the company was not going to sack him for that, he should not make a big deal out of it by quitting his job, or the stint of the incident will live much longer than he should have stayed in his workplace. He eventually faced his fears, and the matter died a natural death. But above all, he saw the bigger picture about stinginess and became a better Duke afterwards. There is an African wise saying that it is better to remain hungry than to eat so much and collapse by the roadside. Most times, people eat more than they need because of their selfishness and unwillingness to give. This was the fate of Duke and why he fell into the spotlight of shame. Giving is a beautiful lifestyle, a lifestyle we must cultivate, not only because it involves being a blessing to others, but also because it does us a lot of good. It promotes longer life and better health, and also promotes good social connection. Studies show that when you give to others, your generosity is often continued down the line to someone else, or even returned to you. As Christians, we must recognize that giving is the lifestyle of God's people, because there is nothing we have today that was not given to us by God. John the Baptist, while preaching to the multitude that came unto him to be baptized in his day, said to them, "He who has 2 tunics, let him give to him who has none, and he who has food, let him do likewise. Apart from being a solution to the needs of others, giving will also open you up for blessings. So, in your life, don't be like the former Duke. Rather, let God be your model in giving. And as you give, do so with cheerfulness. Also, never take undue advantage of someone's cheerfulness in giving as a weakness to drain them dry. It is a very bad attitude. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. Thank you so much for listening. Stay blessed. Bringing you inspiring life stories which you can learn from. This is metawits Inspirational.